All right. Good evening, everybody. I almost forgot to do this video, mostly because I wasn't excited about the result. So we had France-Belgium today. I went to a Buffalo Wild Wings where I proceeded to sit at a bar, at the bar, and just hang out, watch the game. A couple other people were watching it with me. Had, I guess, an okay conversation with a couple people. But yeah, France ended up pulling it out, winning 1-0, which is disappointing for me because I hate France. Well, I just dislike France a lot for many reasons, but one thing that's basically been apparent all through this tournament and through all the games, at least in this knockout stage, has been how good Kylian Mbappe is. He's the only player on the France squad that I genuinely like. Maybe their goalkeeper, I guess, and then I guess Olivier Giroud, but Giroud is more of a comedic effect type person. No, I take that back. N'Golo Kante, the French defensive midfielder, is hands down the best defensive midfielder, and I love him for it. He's such a great player, and you know, a lot of defensive midfielders. Well, defensive midfield is the position that just gets a ton of flack, because you never see them. You rarely see them when they're doing things right. You typically always see them when they do something wrong, but it's the one out of like 10 or 100 things that have gone right. Michael Bradley, the American international defensive midfielder, plays for Toronto FC, is a perfect example of this. Lots of people hate on him, but the problem is he does his work off camera, and he also does a lot of, the job of the defensive midfielder is to sort of plug any gaps in the defensive line and sort of being the first line of defense for any sort of counterattack or things like that, as well as sort of getting the ball rolling. N'Golo Kante kind of plays this sort of enforcer patrol role where he tries to win back the ball, and he's just everywhere, and it's honestly, it's brilliant. And he used to play in like the French, I want to say second tier, before being picked up by Leicester City a couple of years ago, who proceeded to win the Premier League with him as a vital part of that. Chelsea then picked him up the following year and won the Premier League then. So he's a massive asset to Chelsea and to France for just being him and being just essentially a bulldog of a player, where he just gets in your face and he tackles you off the ball, and it's very hard not to dislike his style of play because he puts in so much work. And he's rarely, he's not like this flashy emotional player. He's just a down and dusted, dirty kind of player, just a working class midfielder, and it's great to see. Unfortunately, he plays for France, so that sucks. But France got the job done off of a header, off of a set piece. That's been the sort of the theme song of the entire World Cup. This World Cup has been set pieces. That's corners, that's free kicks, that's penalty kicks, anything. Set pieces have been the sort of critical point, the critical thing in play. It's just been able to do it. And it's been one of the talking points, is just so many goals have come from set pieces. England, I think, have, out of 11 or 12 goals, basically 75% of them have come from set pieces. So it's no small matter, and there's various reasons why that is, but it's just the organization of international teams is less, to where set pieces are more dangerous, I would say, than the club level, and they're just a little bit, people were talking about on a podcast I listened to that set pieces are actually one of the things that you can rehearse, though. So when it comes to international play, you can rehearse these things and do that, and England are very good at that, which is why if England advance to the final tomorrow by beating Croatia, I think that they have a much better chance of playing France at the set-piece game than Croatia do have in playing France. France played a very physical game. Belgium looked very disjointed, I guess would be the best way to say it. They just really looked out of place. They weren't on at all in comparison to when they played Belgium. I think the problem with a lot of with this track has been with Belgium. I mean, they just went and beat Brazil, arguably the best team or one of the best teams, you know, at least in the tournament for sure. And coming off that high of beating a team and then having to take that level and doing the same thing again the next week is something that's very difficult to do, just mentally, because, you know, you've won, you've reached your high point, and now you have to get back up. Even a roller coaster can't do that, which isn't to say that, you know, they can't, you know, raise their level and play to where they can dominate a team. But honestly, I think this could have gone, had that header not gone in, it would have been 0-0 the entire game, and it would have gone to penalties, because honestly, I think both teams were null and void. France had a lot of attacking opportunities, but I think Thibaut Courtois in goal for Belgium really just kind of he shores up the defense a little bit, but Belgium kept pushing forward. France kind of sat back, and then we're working on the counterattack, and with a player like Kylian Mbappe, who's just probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest players I've ever seen, and the skill. I mean, he had a moment where he did this weird trick with, or not weird, but it was just this skillful trick where he got the ball with his right foot, you know, rolled it to his left foot, and that left foot then rolled it into the, you know, behind him into the path of Olivier Giroud, who almost scored, but a good defensive effort from Moussa Dembele, or I think, well, his last name is Dembele. There's a couple Dembeles in the world, but he blocked it, and it didn't go in, but no. So, yeah, France, they played, I guess, a decent game. It was a slugfest of two heavyweights essentially going at each other, and France came out on top. But tomorrow really will determine who we talk about. And honestly, I really hope England go through. I really like this England side, and also I think it would be really hilarious to rehash the 100 Years' War, the basically every war since, you know, between 1066 till, I don't know, the end of Napoleon, where, you know, England and France squared off. I mean, it would be just, you could just make so many murals of just, you know, time period after time period of things. And to be honest, I think England have the upper hand a little bit, what with Wellington beating Napoleon eventually, you know, Poitiers, Agincourt, and all of the other English sort of kicking around. Though France did have Joan of Arc. I don't know if, you know, their 19-year-old young kid in Kylian Mbappe could be their Joan of Arc in that case. Who knows? But I think England have the upper hand in terms of set pieces. So if France try and play physical, it's not going to work. They're going to have to play sort of a counter-attacking style. But to be honest, I think I just think that England would have the edge for some reason, despite France being who they are. All that being said, we still got Croatia-England tomorrow. I think Croatia should be pretty exhausted. Granted, they've had, you know, a couple days of rest, but and you know, I always think of this whole, like, you can get to 100% rest, but you really can't get any longer than that. So provided that they get to that point, any extra days really don't matter. But it does seem like they'll, be struggling a little bit just from playing 2 games to a full 120 minutes. And I think England should be able to out physical them. The midfield isn't too bad, to be honest, with England. So, and I think England just have the edge in overall quality, and again, those set pieces are going to be key, and I think England have that down. So we shall see. I'm definitely going to be hanging out somewhere, just because I think these kinds of games are, well, these games, I mean, they're the semifinals, and you need to be around people just for these kinds of things. Maybe I won't find sort of what I'm looking for until, the final, or until another tournament where just, tens of dozens or hundreds of people are all captivated by one sporting event. We'll see. Yeah, so that's tomorrow. That's at 1 o'clock Central Time, so I think it's definitely worth your while to watch. And we will see if England have a chance to bring the World Cup home. It's kind of been their theme, is it's coming home. So we'll see if it's coming home, and certainly it'll have to rehash the Battle of Napoleon and Wellington for sure. Or it could just be another, a Napoleonic clash, I think would be the proper headline. So that's what's on the menu, and I will talk to you after that game, hopefully with England winning, but regardless, England won't be going home. They still have 1 game to play. Regardless of the result, Belgium will be playing in the 3rd place playoff game on Saturday, which will probably be a, I don't know, a morsel of filler or something, because before the final, which is 10 a.m. Sunday. So definitely everyone should watch that. So yeah, I'm gonna sign off, and again, see you tomorrow.